The shotgun blast echoed across the lake like a thunderclap from hell, shattering the morning fog and sending a flock of startled herons exploding into the sky. Joseph froze mid-cast, his fishing line slicing through the air like a desperate lifeline, heart slamming against his ribs as the acrid smell of gunpowder burned his nostrils. "Get off my property, you freak!" the voice shrieked from the shoreline, raw with venom that cut deeper than any bullet could. Joseph's hands trembled as he dropped the rod, the reel clattering against the weathered dock, but it wasn't fear that rooted him. It was the bone-deep exhaustion of a man who'd fought too many battles just to breathe free. He turned slowly, eyes locking on the figure charging toward him. Evelyn Hargrove, Queen Bee of the Willow Creek HOA, her face twisted in a mask of righteous fury, phone already clutched like a weapon in her manicured fist. "I've called the sheriff," she spat, her voice slicing through the mist. "You're trespassing. You don't belong here. Not you, not your kind." The patrol car screeched up the gravel drive 10 minutes later, lights flashing like accusations in the pale dawn. Deputy Harlan Brooks stepped out, broad-shouldered and world-weary, his badge glinting under the rising sun. Joseph knew him from high school, back when Willow Creek was just a sleepy on the map of upstate New York, before the condos crept in like kudzu and the old families started clutching their pearls tighter. "Joe," Harlan drawled, tipping his hat with a nod that carried the weight of old apologies. "What's this about?" Evelyn was already mid-tirade, her silk blouse untucked from the sprint, pearls swinging like a noose. "He's poaching on community waters. That lake's for residents only, proper ones. He bought the old Miller place last year. Thinks he owns the whole damn shoreline. I saw him from my deck, casting like he owns the place. Called it in myself. Trespassing, harassment, you name it." Joseph leaned against his truck, arms crossed, the chill seeping through his jeans from the dew-soaked grass. He'd come out here at first light to escape the noise in his head, the endless loop of board meetings and donor calls back in the city. The lake house was his sanctuary, a creaky two-story relic with sagging porches and ghosts in the floorboards. His grandfather's gift, passed down through bloodlines that whispered of harder times. Fishing wasn't poaching. It was reclaiming a piece of himself he'd buried under suits and smiles. "Harlan," he said quietly, voice steady as the water lapping at the dock. "You know this land. Miller's deed includes riparian rights, full access. Check the records if you need to." Harlan sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, eyes flicking between them like a referee at a cage match. Evelyn's cheeks flushed crimson, her lips pursing into that familiar Southern Belle scowl she'd perfected over PTA meetings and wine-soaked block parties. "Records? This isn't about papers, deputy. It's about decency. Willow Creek has standards. We don't need outsiders stirring up trouble." The word hung heavy, laced with the unspoken slurs that had followed Joseph since he came out at 17. The whispers that chased him from prom night to his first apartment in Manhattan. The deputy pulled out his notepad, jotting notes with the deliberate slowness of a man who'd rather be anywhere else. "Ma'am, false reports tie up resources. You understand that?" But Evelyn wasn't listening. She was already dialing again, this time her lawyer husband, voice pitching higher with each syllable. Joseph watched it unfold like a slow-motion car wreck. The entitlement, the unraveling, wondering if this was how it always ended. A phone call away from erasure. By noon, the station house buzzed with the fallout. Harlan had run the deed, confirmed Joseph's rights down to the last footnote, and Evelyn's 911 call had been logged as a non-emergency prank. But she doubled down, storming the front desk with a posse of pearl clutchers from the HOA board, demanding Joseph's eviction on moral grounds. The sheriff himself, a grizzled vet named O'Malley, shut it down with a gravelly laugh that echoed off the cinderblock walls. "Lady, you can't 911 a fishing pole. That's misuse of the line. File a civil suit if you want, but right now you're looking at a citation for frivolous reporting." Evelyn's arrest came swift and surreal, cuffs clicking around her wrists as she shrieked about lawsuits and character assassinations, her friends gaping from the lobby like extras in a bad Lifetime movie. Joseph stood outside, chain smoking a cigarette he hadn't touched in years. The adrenaline crash leaving him hollow. The local paper would eat it up tomorrow. HOA tyrant nabbed for lake larceny. But victory tasted like ash. This wasn't just about a dock or a deed. It was Willow Creek reminding him, yet again, that belonging was a privilege doled out in whispers and winks. He drove home with the windows down, the autumn wind whipping through the cab like a confession. The lake shimmered under a bruised sky, mocking his reflection in the rearview. Back in the city, he'd built a life of glass towers and gallery openings, rubbing elbows with the elite who nodded approvingly at his TED Talk on queer resilience. But here, in the town that raised him, the roots ran deep and thorny. His phone buzzed. A text from his sister, Mia. Saw the news. You okay? Mom's baking pies again. He didn't reply. Pies couldn't fix the fracture. That night, the house creaked under a storm's assault, rain lashing the windows like accusations. Joseph poured a whiskey neat, settling into the Adirondack chair on the porch, the lake a black mirror swallowing the lightning's flash. Memories flooded in unbidden. Summers with Grandpa Miller, teaching him to tie flies and read the water's moods. The winter he came out, Dad's silence louder than any shout. The escape to NYU, where reinvention felt like salvation. Now, at 28, he was back. Partnerless, restless, chasing echoes in the current. A knock shattered the reverie. Soft, hesitant, like it belonged to someone who'd rehearsed it a dozen times. Joseph set the glass down, peering through the screen door into the downpour. There stood Matthew, soaked to the bone, his dark curls plastered to his forehead, flannel shirt clinging like a second skin. "Joe," he said, voice barely audible over the gale, eyes wide with that boyish plea that had always undone him. "I heard about the call. Drove straight from Syracuse. You didn't answer your phone." Matthew Hale. Teacher, dreamer. The one who'd slipped away 5 years ago like smoke through Joseph's fingers. They'd met at a dive bar in Ithaca, two undergrads nursing cheap beers and shared silences about small-town scars. Matthew with his easy laugh and sketches of forgotten barns. Joseph with his guarded heart and endless questions. What started as late-night drives turned into whispered promises under starlit fields. A love fierce and fragile, the kind that bloomed in secrecy. But life intervened. Joseph's fast track to the city, Matthew's anchor in the Finger Lake schools. The breakup was mutual, a gentle unraveling, or so they'd told themselves. Now, here he was, dripping on the welcome mat, looking every bit the ghost Joseph hadn't exorcised. "Come in," Joseph murmured, stepping aside, the door swinging wide like an invitation to chaos. Matthew hesitated, then crossed the threshold, bringing the scent of wet earth and regret. They stood there, inches apart, the air thick with unsaid words, until the thunder rolled again, urging them forward. The kitchen light flickered as Matthew peeled off his jacket, revealing the faded Cornell hoodie Joseph had stolen and never returned from their last weekend together. "I saw the post on Nextdoor," he said, rubbing his arms against the chill. "Evelyn's meltdown is trending. Half the town's calling her Lake Lady Lockup." A ghost of a smile tugged at his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You should have called me. We said we'd be friends, right?" Joseph busied himself with the kettle, anything to avoid those hazel depths that still held maps to his soul. Friends don't need playbooks for crisis calls. Besides, it's handled. She got the boot. Literally. He slid a mug across the counter, steam curling like a truce flag. "What are you really doing here, Matt? It's a 3-hour drive in this weather." Matthew's fingers wrapped around the ceramic, knuckles white. "Guilt, maybe. Or habit. I don't know." He took a sip, wincing at the heat. "Heard you moved back permanent. Thought. Hell, I don't know what I thought. But seeing your name in that mess? It hit like a gut punch." His gaze dropped to the floorboards, tracing the grain like it held answers. "Willow Creek hasn't changed. Still eats its own." The words landed soft but sharp, stirring the embers Joseph had banked low. They talked then, halting at first, about Matthew's 6th graders and their wild art projects, Joseph's nonprofit gig mentoring queer youth in the city. Laughter crept in, tentative, over shared stories of old teachers gone madder with age. But the undercurrent pulled stronger. The what-ifs, the roads not taken. By midnight, the storm eased to a drizzle, and they migrated to the living room, fire crackling in the hearth Grandpa had built by hand. Matthew stretched out on the rug, head propped on his arm, flames dancing shadows across his face. Remember that night by Cayuga? We skipped finals prep, just floated in the rowboat till dawn. His voice softened, laced with the ache of memory. Joseph nodded from the couch, knees drawn up, the whiskey warming his veins. Yeah, you sketched the moon on a napkin. Said it was our logo for the life we'd build. Silence stretched, heavy with the weight of unlived dreams. Matthew sat up, eyes searching. Why'd you really come back, Joe? The lake? Or something chasing you from the city? Joseph's throat tightened. The city had been a whirlwind of hookups and hollow victories. Boardrooms where his authenticity was a checkbox. Lovers who saw the activist but not the man fraying at the edges. Both, he admitted, voice rough. Grandpa's will. It was like a tether. And the city? It's a machine. Grinds you fine if you let it. He met Matthew's gaze, the vulnerability raw. What about you? Still drawing those barns? Dreaming of galleries that don't exist here? Matthew's laugh was bittersweet. Teaching pays the bills. But yeah, the sketches pile up. One day, maybe. He scooted closer, the rug bunching under him, their knees brushing. A spark neither acknowledged. You deserve this place, Joe. The lake, the quiet. Don't let Evelyn or her coven steal that. The fire popped, embers glowing like unspoken confessions. Joseph reached out, fingers grazing Matthew's hand, the touch electric in its familiarity. Stay, he whispered, the word slipping free before pride could cage it. Just tonight. Storm's not done yet. Matthew's breath hitched, but he nodded, lacing their fingers. A bridge rebuilt in the flicker of hearth light. Outside, the lake whispered secrets to the wind. And for the first time in years, Joseph felt the current shift, pulling him not under, but toward something deeper. Dawn broke gray and grudging over Willow Creek, the kind of light that seeped into bones and unearthed regrets. Joseph stirred to the aroma of bacon sizzling, sunlight slanting through the lace curtains like hesitant fingers. Matthew moved about the kitchen with the ease of muscle memory, humming an old Dylan tune under his breath. Sleeves rolled up to reveal forearms dusted with flour from the biscuits he'd unearthed from the pantry. It was domestic sorcery, this, turning Joseph's bachelor chaos into something resembling home, and it twisted a knife in his gut, sharp and sweet. Morning, Matthew said, sliding a plate across the scarred oak table, his smile crooked as ever. Figured you'd need fortification after last night's showdown. The eggs were over easy, yolks golden as the fields beyond the window, and Joseph dug in, the normalcy a balm against the raw edges of yesterday. They ate in companionable quiet at first, forks scraping china, the lake murmuring beyond the screen door. But questions bubbled up inevitable as the coffee. How long you planning to stick around? Joseph asked, keeping his tone light, though his pulse betrayed him. Matthew shrugged, chasing a bite with black brew. Got a sub for my classes through Friday. Personal day, they call it. More like guilt leave. He set the mug down, eyes steady. Truth? I missed this. The way we used to talk till the words ran dry. Joseph's fork paused mid-air, the weight of it settling like sediment. 5 years. Countless emails that tapered to texts, then silence. The ache had dulled to a bruise, but Matthew's presence rubbed it raw again. We were kids, he said softly, not quite a deflection. Dreams don't always map to reality. A shadow crossed Matthew's face, brief as a cloud. Maybe, but regrets do. He pushed back from the table, clearing plates with purposeful clatter. Walk with me? Show me how the old man's dock held up. They bundled into jackets against the crisp bite, boots crunching fallen leaves along the path Grandpa had worn smooth with a lifetime of footsteps. The lake stretched languid under a veil of mist, base breaking surface now and then like secrets surfacing. Matthew's hand brushed Joseph's as they navigated routes, neither pulling away, the contact a quiet rebellion against the years. At the dock's end, they sat, legs dangling over the edge, water slapping pilings below. Matthew pulled a sketch pad from his backpack, worn leather, edges frayed, and began penciling the horizon, lines fluid as breath. Joseph watched, mesmerized by the familiar ritual, the way Matthew's brow furrowed in concentration. "You still see stories in everything," he murmured. "Me? I just see the fight." Matthew's pencil stilled. "That's why you fit here. Willow Creek's full of fighters, quiet ones, mostly. Like your grandpa." He glanced over, hazel eyes warm. "He'd be proud, Joe. Standing your ground against Evelyn's circus." The mention stirred ghosts. Grandpa Miller, with his pipe smoke and parables, the man who'd slipped Joseph his first book on Stonewall, no fanfare, just a nod over morning coffee. "Cancer took him quick," Joseph said, voice thick. "Left me the house and a letter. Fight for your water, boy. It's yours by right." He traced a scar on the dock from a boyhood slip. "Evelyn's not the first to challenge that." Matthew set the pad aside, turning fully. "And me? I ran when it got hard. City lights too bright for this small-town heart." Regret etched his features, deep as lake wrinkles. "After we split, I dated, tried. But no one fit like you. Like coming home to a language only we speak." Joseph's chest tightened, words warring with walls. Vulnerability was a luxury he'd armored against. But here, with the water as witness, it cracked open. "I waited," he confessed, the admission a stone skipped across the surface. "First year, anyway. Then the city swallowed me. Hookups, causes, anything to fill the echo." He met Matthew's gaze, unflinching. "But yeah, you're the one that stuck." The kiss came natural as tide, Matthew leaning in slow, giving space for retreat. Joseph's hand cupped his jaw, stubble rough under palm, and the world narrowed to salt and warmth, the press of lips a reclamation. It wasn't fire or frenzy, just deep, aching truth, years folding into one breath. When they parted, foreheads touching, Matthew whispered, "Second chances aren't promises, but they're starts." They lingered there till noon, talking in circles and straights. Matthew's stalled novel about forgotten artists, Joseph's grant proposal for a queer youth camp on the lakefront. Laughter wove through, light as spider silk, mending frayed threads. But as they hiked back, Joseph's phone shattered the idyll. A voicemail from Harlan. "Joe, Evelyn's out on bail. Stirring pots. Watch your six." The warning settled like fog, thickening the air. Back at the house, Matthew paced the porch while Joseph scrolled next door. The feed a cesspool of speculation. Liberal invader claims lake rights. Next he'll host drag brunches. Evelyn's a hero. Some folks need reminding of our values. Joseph's jaw clenched, the old rage simmering. "It's not about the fish," he muttered. "It's me. Always has been." Matthew stopped, hands on his shoulders, grounding. "Then fight smart. Not alone." His voice held steel, the teacher in him rallying. "I've got your back, Joe, if you'll have mine." Dinner was takeout from Gino's, greasy pizza and stories of high school hijinks, easing into evening's embrace. They built a fire on the beach, flames licking driftwood, stars pricking the velvet sky. Matthew sketched Joseph's profile against the glow, capturing the line of his nose, the stubborn set of his chin. "For the book," he said when caught. "Our story, unwritten yet." Joseph fed the blaze, sparks rising like prayers. "What if it's messy? Betrayals, blow-ups, the real stuff, vulnerability again, but laced with hope." Matthew's arm slipped around his waist, pulling close. "Messy makes it human." Under the moon's indifferent watch, they kissed again, slower, the lake's lullaby underscoring promises unspoken. Sleep came tangled in sheets later, bodies fitting like puzzle pieces long separated, breaths sinking in the dark. But dawn brought intruders. A truck rumbled up the drive, gravel spitting. Evelyn's husband, Reginald, flanked by two bored cronies, clipboards in hand like talismans. Hargrove, Joseph called from the porch, coffee mug steaming, Matthew a solid warmth at his side. Bail agreement says distance. What's this? Reginald, paunchy in his polo, puffed up. Surveyors, to confirm boundaries. Evelyn's suits filing Monday. Encroachment, nuisance. His eyes flicked to Matthew, narrowing. Company already? Town talks. Matthew stiffened, but Joseph squeezed his hand, voice even. Deeds are public. Call your bluff elsewhere. The men retreated muttering, but the seed was planted, doubt, division, the slow poison of suburbia. As their truck faded, Matthew turned, face grave. This escalates, Joe. You ready for the war? Joseph met his eyes, resolve hardening. With you? Yeah. The lake gleamed behind them, ally in the fray, and for a heartbeat, belonging felt less like a battle and more like a bond. The week blurred into a siege of summonses and stares. Evelyn's lawsuit hit the county clerk like a grenade, headlines in the Willow Gazette twisting facts into folklore. Local matriarch battles boundary bandit. Joseph's inbox overflowed, supporters from his nonprofit cheering the stand, old classmates offering awkward olive branches, detractors spewing bile in comment threads. He fielded calls from reporters, his voice a practiced shield, but each interview chipped at the facade, exposing the boy who'd once hidden love letters in his locker. Matthew became anchor and agitator, splitting days between Syracuse lesson plans and lakefront vigils. He'd arrive evenings with grocery bags and grievances, unpacking both with equal fervor. Your students adore you, Joseph noted one night, chopping onions for chili while Matthew graded papers at the table. That one's got a crush. Doodles hearts around your name. Matthew grinned, red pen pausing. Jealous. The tease hung playful, but his eyes held deeper waters. They're why I stay grounded. Remind me hope's not extinct. He capped the pen, stretching. Speaking of camp proposals gold, youth building docs, learning lines? It's genius. Therapeutic. Joseph stirred the pot, steam rising like confessions. The idea had sparked in therapy sessions back in the city. Reclaiming nature as queer space, fishing as metaphor for navigating currents unseen. Needs funding, and locals on board. He glanced over, Rye. Evelyn's crew won't donate jack. They ate by candlelight, power flicker from a nor'easter brewing. Spoons clinking in rhythm to rain's patter. Conversation meandered to dreams deferred. Matthew's manuscript, half-finished tales of spectral lovers haunting Hudson Valley hollows. Joseph's vision of a foundation, turning Grandpa's land into legacy. We could co-author, Matthew ventured, tentative. Your fire, my words. The offer warmed deeper than the stew. Later, tangled on the couch under quilts, Joseph's head on Matthew's chest, heartbeat a steady drum. Scared, Matthew murmured, fingers tracing spine. Of winning, Joseph quipped, but honesty won. Of losing you again, this us feels borrowed. Matthew tilted his chin up, kiss soft as snowfall. Then let's make it ours. Sleep claimed them to the storm's symphony, bodies entwined against the cold. Friday brought fracture. Joseph's phone rang at dawn, Harlan voice tight. Reginald's pushing code violations. Says your doc's a hazard, needs teardown. Inspectors en route. Joseph bolted upright, Matthew stirring beside him. Bastards, he growled, dressing in fury, turning paperwork into warfare. They met the inspector at the water's edge, a wiry woman named Carla with a no-nonsense bun and clipboard clutched like a cross. Routine check, she said, but her eyes darted, complicit. Matthew hung back, sketching the scene. Doc sturdy as ever, Joseph's stance unyielding. See the braces Grandpa added? Joseph pointed, voice level. Engineered for decades. Carla measured, muttered, but the verdict landed soft. Compliant. Reginald, lurking by his fence, deflated like a punctured tire. As she drove off, he stormed over, face apoplectic. This isn't over, Miller. Willow Creek protects its own. You're just passing through with your lifestyle. The slur landed, venom pure. Joseph's fists clenched, but Matthew stepped forward, calm as lake glass. Protected? From what? Progress? Or just mirrors? His words cut clean, artist's precision. Reginald sputtered, retreating, but the damage lingered, a bruise on the morning. Back inside, Matthew paced, anger simmering. He's scared. Of you thriving. Of love that doesn't hide. He stopped, cupping Joseph's face. Don't let them dim you. The embrace turned fervent, hands roaming with urgent need. Not lust, but affirmation, bodies affirming what words couldn't. They moved to the bedroom, shedding layers like old skins, touches reverent, mapping scars and strengths. It was communion, raw and real, breaths mingling in the sacred space of reunion. Afterward, spent and sated, they lay whispering futures, the storm outside mirroring the one within, turbulent, transformative. But betrayal brewed distant. Saturday, Mia arrived unannounced, pie in hand, her city polish clashing with the rustic calm. Bro, she hugged Joseph fierce, then eyed Matthew with arched brow. The prodigal returns? Bold. Over coffee, stories spilled. Mia's ad agency grind, her latest breakup with a ghoster, but undercurrents swirled, her gaze lingering on Matthew, questions veiled. You too. Solid? She probed, slicing pie with surgical care. Joseph nodded, but doubt flickered. Trying. Matthew excused himself to the porch, sensing the sibling cipher. Mia's fork clinked. Heard from Dad. The name dropped like lead. Their father, retired mill worker, silent sentinel since the coming out. Love unspoken, but presence a ghost. Radio silence, Joseph said, bitter. Like always. She leaned in, voice low. He's asking about you. Through me. The arrest thing? Rattled him. Thinks you're stirring trouble. Her eyes softened. But he said, proud you're fighting. In his way. The words pierced a crack in the wall. Joseph swallowed hard. Means something. Maybe. Mia glanced out, where Matthew sketched the rain-slicked lake. He's good for you. Steady. But don't rush. Build it right this time. She squeezed his hand, sisterly steel. And the lawsuit? Get a lawyer. Evelyn's digging graves. Her visit lingered like aftertaste, stirring sediments. That evening, as Mia departed in her Prius, horns blaring farewell, Joseph found Matthew by the water, pad open to a new page. Their profiles intertwined, ethereal against the waves. For us, Matthew said, closing it. A talisman. Night fell gentle, stars winking approval. They walked the shore, hands linked, discussing defenses, lawyer referrals, community allies. Joseph's nonprofit connected him to a pro bono firm, queer-focused and fierce. We've got teeth, he said, grinning wolfish. Matthew pulled him close, moon silvering their skin. And heart. The kiss sealed it, packed against the tide. Yet Sunday dawned with deceit. A package on the porch, anonymous, brown paper crinkling. Inside, photos, grainy prints of Joseph and Matthew from years past, stolen moments in Ithaca fields, embraces under oaks. Accompanying note, typed sterile, keep your filth off our lake, or these go public. Joseph's stomach roiled, betrayal's bite acute. Who? A neighbor? Reginald's hire? Matthew paled, crumpling the paper. Blackmail. Classy. But fear edged his voice, the artist's soul recoiling from exposure's glare. Joseph burned the pics in the sink, flames devouring evidence. They want war? We'll end it. Rage fueled him, but under it, terror. For Matthew's job, their fragile rebuild. As smoke curled acrid, Matthew gripped his arm. Together, Joe. No secrets. The vow anchored them, but shadows lengthened, promising storms fiercer than any forecast. The anonymous threat coiled like barbed wire in Joseph's gut, twisting tighter with each passing hour. He paced the living room, phone in hand, dialing the lawyer. A sharp-tongued firebrand named Lena Vasquez from Albany. Harassment, extortion. She confirmed over speaker, voice crackling with authority. We've got leverage. File a countersuit, push for a restraining order. And Joe? Document everything. These vultures thrive on silence. Matthew sat cross-legged on the floor, sorting the ashes from the sink into a tin, ritualistic, reclaiming control. Art therapy, he quipped, but his eyes were storm-dark. Burn the poison. Keep the proof. He taped the notes fragments, labeling with dates, a detective's diligence belying the tremor in his hands. They spent the afternoon fortifying. Cameras installed on the dock, motion lights flanking the drive. Neighbors trickled by. Old Mr. Wilkins with a casserole and condolences. The lesbian couple from Elm Street offering witness statements. Evelyn's overreached before, they said, clinking mugs of spiked cider. Time the HOA cracked. Gratitude swelled, a countercurrent to the bile. But isolation gnawed. Joseph's city friends texted solidarity emojis, distant as holograms. His father's silence echoed louder. Evening brought Matthew's idea. A bonfire gathering, invite the allies, turn defense to defiance. Stories over stakes, he said, eyes alight. Share the lake, not the fight. Word spread via group chats, and by dusk, 24 souls dotted the beach. Blankets spread, coolers cracked, guitars strumming folk anthems. Joseph manned the grill, flipping burgers with Harlan, who clapped his back. Heard about the pics. Sheriffs looking into prints. Might trace the creep. Relief flickered, brief. Matthew wove through, sketchpad in tow, capturing faces in fireglow. Kids chasing fireflies, elders swapping yarns of pre-HOA glory. A young teacher from Matthew's school approached, shy. Mr. Hale? Your classes inspire. Thought you'd like this. She handed a drawing, lakeside camp, rainbow flags fluttering. Joseph's throat tightened. Ripples of their vision, already spreading. As stars wheeled overhead, stories unfurled. Mr. Wilkins recounted Grandpa Miller's flood rescues, bartering fish for favors. The lesbians shared their own battles, signs vandalized, but love unbowed. Joseph spoke last, voice steady by the flames. This lake's more than water. It's witness to who we are. Fights won. Love's lost. Roots that run deep. Eyes met Matthew's across the circle. A private vow in public gaze. Applause rose, warm as the blaze. And for a night, Willow Creek felt like kin. But euphoria cracked at midnight. A pickup roared up, headlights blinding. Reginald and a burly accomplice, reeking of bravado and bourbon. Party's over, Reginald bellowed, stumbling forward. This is private property. Disperse or face trespass charges. Chaos erupted. Guests murmuring, Harlan rising slow. Matthew stepped up, voice cutting clear. Your wife's the expert on false claims, Hargrove. Back off. The accomplice lunged, fists raised, but Joseph intercepted, shoving him back with a force born of fury. Not here. Not tonight. Fists flew then. Reginald swinging wild, clipping Joseph's jaw. The accomplice grappling Matthew to the sand. Shouts mingled with crackling wood. A brawl primal as the lake's depths. Harlan waded in, cuffs flashing, pinning Reginald face down. Assault on private land. You're done. The accomplice bolted, tires squealing into night. Bruised and breathless, the gathering dispersed in waves of hugs and vows. We've got you. Joseph iced his swelling cheek, Matthew nursing a split lip, their touches tender in the aftermath. Worth it? Matthew murmured, dabbing salve. Saw their fear. We're winning. Sleep evaded, adrenaline a thief. They lay awake, dissecting the melee. Reginald's arrest a coup, but the accomplice loose, threat amplified. Dawn painted the room gold, and with it, resolve. Joseph kissed Matthew's knuckles, bruised blooms. Camp starts soon. Let's build anyway. Monday's hearing loomed like Judgment Day. Lena prepped them in her cluttered office, files stacked like battlements. Evelyn's dropping the suit. Too much heat. But expect backlash. Small towns nurse grudges like fine wine. She eyed them appraisingly. You too? Solid front. Use it. Back home. Progress bloomed. Donors trickling in for the camp. Teens emailing interest. Matthew's sketches evolved into logos, waves curling into infinity symbols, hearts etched in ripples. But cracks spidered personal. A call from Matthew's principal. Whispers of distractions. Parental concerns post-brawl. Nothing formal. The voice soothed, but implication stung. Matthew hung up, face ashen. They're circling. My job, kids' faces on the line. He sank to the couch, head in hands. Maybe I should bow out. Protect us both. Joseph knelt, framing his face. No. They want division. Don't give it. Passion surged, words tumbling. You're my why, Matt. The sketches, the stories, we're building something real. Fight with me. Tears welled, unashamed. I love you, Matthew whispered. First utterance since reunion. Scared shitless, but yeah, all in. The confession unlocked floods. Joseph's own, I love you, echoing back, fierce and freeing. They clung, lake wind sighing approval through cracked windows. Midweek betrayal struck intimate. Mia texted frantic. Dad's sick. Hospital. Come now. Joseph's world tilted. Tires eating highway to Rochester General. Matthew drove, hand steady on his thigh. The room smelled of antiseptic and regret. Tubes snaking, monitors beeping Dad's fragile rhythm. He stirred as they entered, eyes milky but sharp. Joseph. The name croaked, waited. Mia hovered, tear-streaked. Heart scare. Docs say rest. Awkward silence blanketed, broken by Dad's rasp. Saw the papers. That woman. Fool. Pause, labored. Proud son. Of the stand. And him. Nod to Matthew, faint but there. Joseph's vision blurred. Dad. Forgiveness flowed unbidden. Bridge over chasms. They talked halting mill days, missed games. The unspoken queer-shaped hole. Love you, Dad murmured, hands squeezing weak. Always did. Leaving, catharsis heavy as rain clouds. In the lot, Matthew pulled him close. Healing starts somewhere. The drive home was quiet reverence. Love's gravity stronger. But Willow Creek waited, wounds festering. Anonymous calls escalated. Voicemails slurring slurs. Tires slashed on Joseph's truck. Lena filed reports, but justice lagged. Then, the accomplice surfaced. Caught boosting cars in Syracuse. Spilling to cops about Reginald's errand. Confessions tumbled, the photos his work paid petty cash. Reginald's empire crumbled. Arrest for conspiracy. Evelyn's facade fracturing in tabloid tears. The HOA board dissolved in scandal. New elections promising reform. Joseph's countersuit settled quiet. Apology letter. Community service for the Hargroves. Climax crested at the camp's groundbreaking. 50 souls on the shore. Shovels biting earth for the first dock extension. Teens laughed. Elders nodded. Matthew emceeing with sketches unfurled like flags. Joseph spoke, voice carrying over waters. This isn't victory. It's belonging. Earned. Shared. Unbreakable. As sunset bled crimson, Matthew drew him aside. Ring box glinting. Simple band. Engraved with waves. Marry me, Joe. Here, now, or whenever. But with you. Tears pricked, joy pure. Yes. Vows exchanged impromptu, witnesses cheering. Lake echoing amen. Yet depth lingered, scars as stories. Love as labor. In the afterglow, Joseph traced Matthew's palm. We made it. Matthew smiled, eternal. And keep making. The current carried them forward, humanistic horizon vast. Winter crept in stealthy, frosting the lake's edges with crystalline filigree, turning Willow Creek into a postcard of endurance. The camp's first phase stood proud. A sturdy pavilion with rainbow accents, docks extended like welcoming arms. Joseph's nonprofit buzzed with enrollments, teens arriving by bus with backpacks and guarded hopes. Matthew volunteering weekends to lead art workshops. Draw your current, he'd say, pencils whispering over paper as stories surfaced. Their engagement rippled through town like a stone's throw. Congrats in the co-op, toasts at Gino's, even a hesitant card from Evelyn, post-rehab scrawl apologizing for blind hate. Forgiveness wasn't Joseph's to grant alone. He framed it on the fridge, beside Matthew's latest sketch. Two figures casting lines into infinity, titled Belongings. But harmony hid hurdles. Matthew's school tenure teetered, bored murmurs of optics, parents petitioning after leaked brawl pics. He faced the panel stoic, portfolio in hand, student testimonials, camp impact reports. Teaching's heart, he testified, voice steady. Love doesn't distract, it illuminates. The vote swung narrow, retained with caveats, but victory tasted of vindication. Joseph's own battles burrowed inward. Dad's recovery summoned weekly drives, hospital rooms yielding to hospice hums. Conversations deepened, halting at first, Dad admitting regrets. Should have spoken sooner. Eyes on faded photos of Joseph the Boy Scout. You fought quiet, like me. Tears carved channels, mending what time tore. Mia mediated, her pie baking a ritual of reunion. Family's messy, she'd say, passing slices. But worth the crust. Spring thawed secrets. An envelope arrived, postmarked Ithaca. Matthew's manuscript, agent query ready. Tales of queer specters finding flesh in modern hollows. Hours, woven in. He confessed over dawn coffee, nerves electric. Your strength, my shadows. Joseph read till midnight, pages blurring with pride. Rejections followed. 5, 10. But the 11th hooked. Voice like lightning over water. Let's talk. As blooms burst lakeside, their wedding planning wove whimsy and weight. No cathedral pomp. A shore ceremony, wildflowers and witnessed vows. Invites went broad. City allies, town converts, Dad in a wheelchair, grinning frail. Rehearsal eve, rain lashed tents, but laughter drowned it. Harlan toasting with bad jokes, Mia corralling chaos. The day dawned luminous, mist burning off to reveal azure skies. Guests dotted the beach in pastels, strings of lights twinkling premature. Joseph waited in the boathouse, suit crisp linen, heart a wild drum. Mia adjusted his boutonniere, bass fly, iridescent. Handsome devil, she winked, dabbing his eyes. Matthew appeared pathside, curls tamed, eyes locked on Joseph's like lodestars. Guitar strummed soft, old folk hymn, adapted queer. They met at water's edge, sands shifting underfoot, officiant a camp alum with rainbow stole. Vows poured authentic, Joseph's. You saw me when I hid, love you for the light you lend. Matthew's. In your fight, I found mine, forever your current. Rings exchanged, simple gold etched with ripples, sealing with a kiss salt-kissed by spray. Cheers erupted, confetti of petals scattering. Dad's clap thunderous despite weakness. Reception flowed. Bonfire tales, dances barefoot, cake a tiered wave crashing sweet. But climax shadowed joy. As dusk deepened, a figure approached. Accomplice from the brawl, sober-suited, envelope in hand. For Miller, he muttered, eyes downcast. Inside, confession affidavit, detailing Reginald's payroll for sabotage. Evelyn's nods. Guilt ate me. Testify if you want. Clean slate. Joseph's pulse thundered, old wounds reopening. Matthew gripped his hand, steady. Your call. Justice or grace. They conferred by firelight, guests oblivious. Expose, Joseph decided. Not for revenge, for the next kid threatened. Testimony followed weeks later, courtroom stark as truth. Reginald crumbled on stand, Evelyn absent, health frail. Sentences light, probation, restitution, but the ripple. HOA charter rewritten, inclusivity clauses etched in bylaws. Willow Creek exhaled, prejudices pierced. Summer swelled the camp, cabins rising, teens thriving. Fly-tying circles birthing bonds, night hikes under stars sparking selves. Joseph mentored, Matthew illustrated journals. Your waves, their words. Dad visited once, wheelchair on dock, rod in hand. Like old times, he rasped, landing a perch. Joseph hugged him fierce, tears mingling with lake spray. Betrayal's echo faded, but depth endured. One eve, storm brewing, Matthew found Joseph brooding porchside. Dad's gone next month, he said, voice cracking. Hospice calls forewarned. but loss loomed Leviathan. Matthew knelt, embracing. Grieve with me. We'll carry him, in stories in this. They wept then, raw release, love's basin overflowing. Funeral was lakeside, simple. Ashes scattered where grandpas mingled, eulogy Joseph's, words weaving dad's quiet courage into queer legacy. He learned late, but loved true. Matthew's hand in his anchor eternal. Autumn gilded leaves, manuscript sold, echoes on the water, dedication. To Jay, my horizon. Book tour beckoned, but roots held, dual lives, weekends weaving city and creek. Climax resolved not in blaze, but breath. A town hall, Joseph keynoting reform, Matthew projecting sketches. Belongings no gift, it's grown. Applause thundered. Evelyn in back row, nodding tear-streaked. Winter's eve, snow mantling, they curled by hearth, rings glinting. Our story, Matthew murmured, head on shoulder. Dramatic enough? Joseph kissed his temple. Endless. The lake slumbered outside, witness to their humanistic arc. Love not conquest, but constant current, flowing deep, undimmed. Years folded like accordions, each pleat a chapter etched in wind and wave. The camp evolved into a Beacon Miller's Current, nonprofit powerhouse hosting residencies for queer artists, retreats for elders reclaiming youth. Joseph helmed it full-time, city suits traded for waiters, his TED sequel going viral, Waters of Witness, reclaiming queer spaces. Applause echoed global, but home's hush healed deepest. Matthew's novel soared, sequels spawning, tours threading coasts, but Syracuse classroom his compass. They balanced. Joseph's grants funding Matthew's sabbaticals, shared drives debating plots over podcasts. Marriage matured, not monochrome but mosaic. Arguments over undone dishes dissolving into dockside dances. Anniversaries marked with fly-fishing duels. Losers cooking catch. Dads passing carved quiet, but legacy lingered. A trust for the camp. Letters unearthed post-mortem. One to Joseph. Fought my fights wrong. Yours right. Love always. Framed by the mantle beside Grandpa's pipe. Willow Creek transformed tentative. Pride flags fluttering porches. HOA elections ousting old guards. Evelyn's redemption arc. Volunteering camp cleanups. Her sorry, evolving to stories shared over coffee. Hates a small pond, she admitted once, eyes on horizon. Yours runs deeper. Conflicts crested subtle now, budget crunches, donor droughts, a vandalized sign post-wedding bliss. But tools tempered. Community watches. Lena's firm on retainer. Matthew's art auctions bailing fiscal floods. Betrayals? Rare ghosts. A board leak. A lover's ex stirring silt. But transparency triumphed. Trusts rebuilt brick by story. Climax revisited in crisis. Summer deluge. 28 floods swelling the lake, threatening foundations. Evac orders blared. Guests scrambling. Joseph and Matthew corralling chaos. Rafts rigged from docks. Supplies ferried to high ground. As waters lapped cabins, a team panicked, flailing in current. Joseph dove, Matthew tossing line, hauling him safe. In the deluge's roar, eyes locked, fear forged fiercer. Post-flood, rebuild rallied town. Work crews hammering, funds flooding in. Joseph's speech amid mud. Storms test shores, but roots hold. Matthew sketched the recovery. Book 3 born. Flooded hearts, bestseller bomb. Humanistic heart pulsed perennial. One dawn, decade wed. They rode Grandpa's old skiff. Lines cast lazy. Regrets? Matthew asked, reeling slow. Joseph pondered, sun gilding waves. None. You? Only not sooner. Laughter bubbled. Kiss sun warm. Teens graduated camp to lives launched. Activists, artists, anchors. A boy, once silenced, returned mentor. You gave me water to swim. Joseph's nod. Throat full. We all do. Elder winters, they wintered south sometimes, but lake called constant. Porch rockers creaked duets, stories retold richer. Matthew's hair silvered, Joseph's lines laughed deep. hands entwined eternal. Ending not abrupt, but arc. A final sketch, Matthew's gift. Their lives panoramic, from shotgun shock to sunset serenity. Our epic, he inscribed. Joseph hung its central, lake view framed. And counting. Wind whispered agreement. Current carrying forward. Love's legacy. Humanistic hymn. American as amber waves. Deep as dawn's first light. In Willow Creek's embrace, they belonged. Not despite storms, but through them. The end? Merely a bend, story flowing on.